Championship. UConn will close out 2011 with a New Year's Eve matinee. We're at the XL Center in Hartford, where St. John's visits 9th-ranked Connecticut. And a very pleasant good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bob Picozzi, along with 2008 Olympic gold medalist Kara Lawson. Thanks for spending your final hours of the year with us. Both of these teams began conference play with wins earlier in the week. Kara, this will be a matchup between youth and experience.
When you look at UConn, and they have experienced youth, still some underclassmen led by Shabazz Napier and Jeremy Lamb, but St. John's, you've got 6 first-year players in the program. So Coach Mike Dunlap taking them on their first Big East road game. This should be a huge test for the Red Storm.
And in our one-on-one, neither team today will be guided by its head coach.
Neither team will be guided by its head coach, but they are guided by experienced basketball men who have done great things at other institutions. You look at Mike Dunlap and what he did at the Division II level, has been around the game a long time and has known Steve Lavin since he was 21. He knows his system. And then George Blaney, all that success he's had at Holy Cross, and has also served in this capacity before in Jim Calhoun's absence.
This is the 33rd year of the Big East, and Mo Harkless did something the other night that's never been done before. He scored 32 points, the most by a freshman in his Big East Conference debut. The opening tip is next. For the 62nd meeting between St. John's and UConn, let's check out the starting lineup. First, for the Red Storm, they go with 4 freshmen and a first-year junior college transfer in their starting lineup. We told you what Mo Harkless did the other night against Providence. Well, D'Angelo Harrison in the same game had a career-high 25 points. And for UConn, Jeremy Lamb is in the top 10 of the Big East in 6 different categories. He's the second leading scorer in the conference, averaging 19.3 points per game. Now, we told you about the 2 men who will be coaching the team today. Jim Calhoun serving the second game of a 3-game suspension. He'll be back next Saturday for UConn, but when will Steve Lavin be back? For more on that, let's welcome in the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Andy Katz.
All right, thank you, Bob. Well, we know Steve Lavin and his wife Mary are watching the game this afternoon on their couch. I spoke with Steve about a half hour before tip-off. He told me that doctors have not yet cleared him for coaching responsibilities. He's been doing a ton of recruiting. He's traveled from coast to coast, LA, San Francisco, up to New Hampshire, all over New England. But right now, he feels the way he felt before he came back and coached. It's an added stress after that prostate cancer surgery. He coached for 4 games, and it was a major setback for him. It's different, the stress of coaching, your blood pressure, and the physical exertion from that prostate surgery than when he's at practice. And when I spoke with Mike Dunlap before the game, he said there are no mixed messages because Lav is there. They see him. They know there's transparency. They know what is going on with him on a daily basis. He is definitely in contact with the players and coaches in practice. Sometimes he's coaching more than others, but he will be back when his doctors clear him because this is a long-term recovery, not short-term, and the university has backed him to make sure he comes back healthy.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. And there's a look at Mike Dunlap, who's running the show in his absence. Under Mike Dunlap, St. John's is 5-3 this year. And George Blaney, his counterpart, getting the win at USF the other night. In his career at UConn, UConn is 8-8 with George Blaney serving as the acting head coach. And of course, you're talking about a man who in his career also has 459 wins of his own. Andre Drummond, jumping center with Mo Harkless, tap controlled by UConn. This is Lamb, defended by number 11, D'Angelo Harrison. Napier guarded by 15, Sir Dominic Pointer. Lamb looking inside, the pass deflected by Harkless. 17 to shoot for UConn.
And that's what St. John's needs to do. Anytime you get into the wing or into that deep corner, they're going to come with pressure. Deflection's a huge part of what they want to do defensively.
St. John's coming off a lopsided win over Providence. UConn a close win on the road at USF. Napier, head fake, tried to draw the foul, didn't get it. Pulling down the rebound, 11, D'Angelo Harrison. Pointer to God's gift Achua. Wants to go on Drummond. Weak side help from Lamb. And then the rebound is pulled down by Oriaki. Napier playing with a bruised foot, an injury he suffered the other night at USF. On the kick, it will be side out for the Huskies.
And that possession right there kind of gives you an idea of what St. John's wants to do offensively. Face up UConn's bigs and use their quickness to try and get into the lane.
Number 2, DeAndre Daniels starting because Roscoe Smith injured his hand the other night at USF. Likely won't play today. Daniels for 3. Rebound kept alive by Drummond, but he knocked it over the baseline. St. John's has won the last 2 meetings between these two, although UConn won the 9 previous meetings before that. Pointer. Right side to Achua. Up top, Harrison. St. John's very deliberate in the half court.
They're going to be patient, and they're going to look for the mismatch and look for an opportunity to get good shots. Against UConn, you have to get good shots in the half court.
Shot clock all the way down to 7. Green launches to 3, and Oriaki with another rebound. Napier left side, Lamb for 3. Oriaki tried to put back St. John's 3-on-3 if they hurry. They don't. Instead, they'll back it out, and it's Harkless. Green directing traffic. Achua sets the high screen. Harrison with the penetration and the floater. Oriaki might have altered the trajectory of that one. It goes over to the Huskies.
Now, anytime you can get penetration against UConn, those bigs, whether it's Oriaki or Drummond, will come. And sometimes a missed shot opens up an opportunity for you to get a putback. Achua there just not able to corral it.
We've played 220. Neither team has scored. UConn averaging 73 points per game. With no look feed to Drummond.
Napier's just got a great connection there with Andre Drummond. Whenever he's at the top of the key extended, he looks to either throw an alley-oop or fire a bullet pass in there to the freshman, who's really calm on as of late. And Shabazz Napier, the sophomore point guard, just does a great job of picking apart. And there's pieces against that St. John's zone. There's gaps that you can find. And Drummond just an explosive talent on the front court.
Foul on Achua, the first foul of the game. Drummond has really struggled from the foul line so far this year, shooting just 33%. Pointer knocked away, loose on the floor, and we'll get a held ball. George Blaney coaching the team in Jim Calhoun's absence. With more on him, let's go to Andy Katz.
Well, Kevin Ollie has sort of been tabbed as the heir apparent by UConn, not officially but unofficially. But Blaney is the interim head coach. But in talking to George Blaney, he did tell me that he wants more input from all the assistant coaches, wants maybe more than Jim Calhoun will receive throughout the course of the game. And the biggest difference here between Calhoun and Lavin is during this suspension, Calhoun is not allowed to be at practice, whereas Lavin, as he's trying to recover, has been at some of the practices.
Drummond pulls down the miss of the Achua shot. Napier up top, ball fake. Gives the Lamb for the deep 3. Rebound controlled on a hop by Harkless. St. John's looking for something in transition. 22, Amir Garrett is checked in for the Red Storm. Green directing traffic. St. John's 7-5. After tonight, they get Louisville on Tuesday night at Madison Square Garden. Harkless miss. Oriaki with rebound number 3. Here's Lamb quickly down low, Drummond, and he threw it right into the hands of Harrison. Harrison with the jumper.
And that's what St. John's needs to do. Get out in transition if you can before you allow UConn to set up in the half-court defense and utilize those bigs they have in the front court.
St. John's missed its first 6 shots before that Harrison jumper. Daniels on the left. Spins. Oriaki thought about it. Instead, Napier for 3.
That's a good sign for Shabazz Napier. He did not shoot the basketball well in their win against USF, only 1 for 9 from the field. So for him to get going early is a positive sign for the Huskies.
But not a positive sign is the quick basket for St. John's the other way. And Napier was 1 for 6 from three-point range the other night. Oriaki. So both teams getting quick baskets following a make at the other end. Garrett drives, and it's swatted away by Lamb. Tyler Olander will come into the lineup for UConn when we come back. It's a 4-point Huskies lead. Both teams trying to ring in the new year with a win. Which one will be 2-0 in the Big East at the end of the day? 8-4 UConn lead. Attention golfers and club pros. Online registration is now open for the 2012 ESPN National Golf Challenge. Log on to ESPNGolf.com to sign up and find a participating course near you. It is a young St. John's team. Steve Lavin and his staff did a great job recruiting the talent. And speaking of Steve, more on that. Let's go to Andy Katz.
The wins and losses. Steve Lavin gets credit for the wins and losses. Got to get the mic on here. Steve Lavin gets credit for the wins and losses during his absence. And so does Jim Calhoun. Now, UConn was a little confused as to whether or not they should put the win from the other night on Jim Calhoun's record. But according to the NCAA, I got an email earlier this afternoon. Anytime there's a temporary absence, the wins and losses go on the coach's record.
All right, thank you very much. So with that in mind, Jim Calhoun's record, we will give him credit for the win the other night, would be 866 and 368. Sixth most in history, third most among active coaches. Tyler Olander comes in for UConn, and Kara, he was a big help last year as a freshman down the stretch when UConn went on that incredible run to win it all.
Well, Tyler Olander just gives them a presence, and when you're going against this defense that St. John's plays, the vulnerabilities in the middle. So his skill set as that stretch four, his ability to pass the basketball, he's third on the team in assists from the power forward position.
He's in for Oriaki. Olander had it knocked away, gets it back. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Napier with 5, lost the handle, gets it back to Olander inside. He'll draw the foul with 1 second on the shot clock.
Well, you see that's twice Tyler Olander gets the basketball in the middle of the zone. And even though Providence lost their game against St. John's, they had great success in terms of getting quality shots when the ball reached the middle of the zone. And if you got it going against the zone offense or going against the zone defense and the ball touches the middle twice, you have a great chance to have a solid outcome on that possession.
Foul on Harkless, 1 on him, 2 in the team. Olander, Kara, had a very interesting night. You were courtside to see it when he had a chance for the first time as a collegian to play head-to-head against his brother Ryan from Fairfield.
You know, Ryan won a couple battles, Tyler won the war, but Ryan Olander, he got bragging rights for Christmases from here on out. He got a nice block on Tyler Olander, and then he also got a vicious dunk on his younger brother, so he's got bragging rights in the driveway.
But Tyler's team's got bragging rights with the final score.
And the national championship ring from last season.
5-point Huskies lead. On the right, Harrison. Shot clock inside 10 again. Wide open is Phil Green. Rebound off of Drummond's hands, and then Napier runs it down in the corner. Number 11, Ryan Boatwright, in for the Huskies, the highly touted backup point guard from Aurora, Illinois. Jeremy Lamb getting the rest with Boatwright in. So Huskies with both of their point guards on the floor at the same time. They do that often. Napier up top to Daniels. Wide open look. Olander with the offensive rebound.
And that's what makes UConn so difficult to defend. They get an open shot, but they're relentless on the offensive glass. They give themselves an opportunity to insulate against bad shooting nights with their prowess on the glass.
So 3 quick points off the bench for Olander. Boatwright pick to pocket. Boy, he's got some serious ups.
We've seen Ryan Boatwright do that all season long. Puts tremendous pressure on the opposing team's point guard when he comes into the basketball game.
UConn is just 15th in the Big East in turnover margin, but they forced a big one there.
Remember last season when Shabazz Napier was the guy that came in and put the ball pressure, gave Kemba Walker the rest? This season it's Ryan Boatwright. He comes in, that allows Shabazz Napier to slide to the 2, and he's got just tremendous ferociousness on the on-ball defense.
So the quick St. John's timeout. Let's go over to Andy Katz.
Remember, Ryan Boatwright had that 6-game suspension to start the season, sort of getting him off to a bit of a slow start. They did lose that game when he was absent down at the Atlantis tournament, the Battle for Atlantis. But Ryan Boatwright, and I watched them in September play some pickup. He is probably the most like Kemba Walker of any player on this team. Doesn't mean he's going to become Kemba Walker, but as Kara knows, you need a player who's got a little bit of an edge to him, more of a voice, a little bit of a talker, maybe not too confident, but someone who can sort of get in someone's face and get the guys together. That's Ryan Boatwright. The rest of the guys are a little bit too passive, and he's added that sort of energy for this team off the bench.
Absolutely, Andy. It's an edge. It's an edge that Ryan Boatwright brings on both ends of the floor. And when you're a sub, you want to change pace and change rhythm. And Ryan Boatwright does that on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well.
Out of the St. John's timeout, Harrison drives, and he got in the middle of no man's land and gets the ball back and manages to get himself a trip to the free throw line. The foul will be on Olander, and that's the first on the Huskies in the game.
First personal foul.
You know, one of the things that just makes UConn so unique is that they can play small in the backcourt. They can play small in the front court. They can go big. They have a lot of different combinations. One young man that has an opportunity to get some minutes today is Niels Giffey. He's just checked into the game with Roscoe Smith not playing. This is an opportunity for him to earn some minutes. He's a solid player who can be very sound on the defensive end for the Huskies.
Giffey has scored just 17 points, averaging 8 minutes per game. With the addition of Boatwright, it has limited Giffey's minutes, but as you mentioned, with Roscoe Smith likely not playing today, Giffey could get some extra minutes, and we may see more of that three-guard look for the Huskies. Boatwright lost the handle, got it back. Oriaki inside. Coming away with the rebound is Sir Dominic Pointer. Harrison back to Pointer. Harkless over Olander. Harkless with the 32-point effort the other night against Providence. Most points scored by a freshman in his first Big East Conference game in the history of this conference.
Remember, Mo Harkless was a verbal commit to UConn, and talked with George Blaney before the game about Mo Harkless and what he can do on both ends of the floor, and he said, you know, we love him. We had his commitment there for a while, but St. John's, the native of Queens, he decided to stay at home, and just a smooth offensive player for the Red Storm.
Giffey knocked it out of bounds. 20 seconds left in the shot clock for the Red Storm. Green returns and Garrett sits down. One thing St. John's does not have, Kara, is depth. They'll likely play only 7 people in a close game.
And that's up from just getting Amir Garrett back. He's only had 5 practices with the team, so they're just getting 7 players after Nuri Lindsay decided to transfer out.
Harkless with the miss. Boatwright spins, penetrates, sets up Olander.
Electric. Ryan Boatwright can be electric. His maturation process will go a long way into improving UConn, particularly from the point guard position.
5 quick points for Olander. Harkless with the miss. Batted around, comes to Lamb. He has Oriaki to his right. Lamb changes direction on the dribble and will draw the foul on Green. His first and 3 on St. John's. It's all about penetration, and it can lead to some good things.
Absolutely. When you allow UConn's guards to get downhill, Ryan Boatwright can be terrific. Great drop-off pass to Olander and the Huskies trying to open this one up.
Family received a big ovation here at the XL Center, and for a very good reason. For more on that, let's go over to Andy Katz.
Well, they're longtime UConn boosters, and they donated $4.5 million toward a new UConn men's and women's basketball facility. And there's an arms race going on in NCAA Division I basketball, certainly obviously in college football. You've got to have a state-of-the-art practice facility. A number of schools and all the Power 6 conferences have them. And it's been something that Jim Calhoun certainly has been preaching to try to get this program up to another level, to sort of have more of a legacy beyond his tenure here as head coach, and certainly for Gino Auriemma as well. If they can get this built somewhere, it's supposed to be behind Gamble Pavilion in that old football stadium area, it certainly would be a huge plus for UConn as they go forward deeper into this century and trying to compete in a conference that we don't know what's going to be, what's going to consist of going forward.
All right, Andy, thank you. I did the West Virginia Seton Hall game last night. West Virginia is about to open their brand new practice facility, and they're very excited about it. And as Andy said, it's an arm race. Most of the big name schools have them. UConn combined men and women have won, 10 national championships, and they still don't have one.
Absolutely. It's a basketball laboratory. It's an opportunity for your student athletes to go and get work done, whether it's in the weight room or on the basketball court and off hours.
Niels Giffey drilling the corner 3. Only his 4th attempt and 2nd make from three-point range this year in limited playing time. The lead is up to 10. Pointer hoists the 3.
Confusion there between Oriaki and Olander. They got to get it figured out whether they're going to switch or not, because these post players for St. John's can face up and hit that three.
And a turnover for the Huskies. Their third. So it'll be St. John's ball with a 7-point lead.
Well, you see both of the forwards here not sure whether they're going to switch or not, and that creates confusion, and that also creates Oriaki, him sloughing off, and Point, they're able to knock down that three-point shot.
Harrison, guarded by Lamb, to Green. Up top, Pointer, on the switch being guarded by Olander. Green, down low to Achua. What did UConn do wrong defensively there?
Well, helped up. Alex Oriaki helped up, and that enabled Phil Green to make a nice pass, and that's what St. John's needs more of. Penetration. You don't always have to penetrate to score, but if you penetrate and draw one of UConn's big men, good things can happen.
Giffey to Olander on the right. Rebound comes out to Harkless. Spins. A little out of control. Gets it up. Will be called for the walk. Only the second turnover for St. John's.
Well, Phil Green has been thrust into that point guard position. Now the transfer of Nuri Lindsay, and does a tremendous job here of being patient, coming off that screen, seeing the alley, and then finding Achua with the dunk. But Phil Green, I mean, a lot is being asked of him mid-year to switch to that point guard position. He's more of a scoring guard, and they're trying to teach him some of those point guard principles within their offense.
Olander. And we're going to get a foul called on Pointer. That will be number 1 on him, number 4 on St. John's. Next up for the Huskies, a visit to Seton Hall on Tuesday. And St. John's will host Louisville on Tuesday night at Madison Square Garden. Cardinals right now playing Kentucky in a number 3 versus number 4 matchup. And Napier nails the three. UConn leads the Big East in three-point shooting percentage.
St. John's is last in the Big East in three-point shooting percentage, and they've had some scoring woes.
Achua with a hard drive to the goal, and he'll draw the foul on Lamb. His first, and only the second on the Huskies.
First personal foul on Lamb, second team foul.
So 4 freshmen and a first-year junior college transfer comprise the starting 5 for St. John's, and Achua is that transfer. And Kara, he didn't begin playing basketball until he was 14 years old, so he's still relatively new at the game.
Well, the progress will be something to watch as St. John's looks to improve as they go through this rugged Big East schedule. And talking with Mike Dunlap, he said, look, we threw half of our offense out of the way because we wanted to really slim it down for this group and put our system in as quickly as possible and then work on the details. Now we're working on the details as to how our offense should be run. But with a young team and without their head coach, Steve Lavin, you have to credit the job that Mike Dunlap and his staff have done.
St. John's pulls within 6 inside the 9-minute mark. Both right to Napier. Lamb in the corner. Shot clock down to 7. Boatwright thought about it. Deep 3 by Lamb. Lamb wincing somewhat as he went down, hit the floor, and he's holding his right hip. Harrison. Olander and Oriaki were both there. And the foul will be called on Alex Oriaki. That's number 1 on him and number 3 on the Huskies. Lamb, unlimited shooting range.
If you get good basketball rotation against the zone, you're going to find yourself getting some three-point shots. And I like the fact that Ryan Boatwright passed on a contested, really bad shot and found Jeremy Lamb, and that's NBA range. And they have a couple guys on this UConn Husky team that can shoot it from deep. The young man at the free throw line, D'Angelo Harrison, he can shoot it from deep as well.
So Harrison at the line, coming off a career-high 25-point effort the other night against Providence. Boatwright. Reversal to Lamb. Quick pass to Napier. He penetrates, thought about going inside, nothing there. Boatwright with the pull-up and knocks it down.
And it gets his zone, and really all season long, UConn's best offensive lineup is when Ryan Boatwright is in the game. They go small, they put Lamb at the small forward. Just too many offensive options on the perimeter to defend.
We're at the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. Thanks for joining us for Big East action between St. John's and the 9th-ranked UConn Huskies. I'm Bob Picozzi, along with former Tennessee Lady Vol All-American Carol Lawson and Andy Katz. It's a 9-point Huskies lead. Both teams 1-0 in Big East play. Harrison penetrates and sets up Achua. 6 points for Achua. 7-point UConn lead. So UConn going a lot with the 2 point guards, Napier and Boatwright, on the floor together today.
Well, you know, I like it a lot on the offensive end as we see Lamb starting to feel good from beyond the arc. He's bringing that along from his second half at USF, where he really took over offensively and really made it a point to be aggressive on that end. But I really like Boatwright and Napier when the matchups allow to have 2 point guards on the floor at the same time.
Second 3 of the day for Lamb, 30th of the year. Pointer tries to match. Rebound yanked down by Drummond and then knocked out of bounds by St. John's.
Timeout on the floor.
Ryan Boatwright has certainly made his impact since he entered the game.
Absolutely. The freshman is just sensational with his explosiveness on the offensive end. He can do it in a variety of ways, and he's given UConn a big lift in this game.
UConn leads St. John's, looking for its 4th straight win, all with Mike Dunlap running the show. And Andy Katz, one thing that is a good thing for St. John's with Steve Lavin out, there's no lack of experience on that coaching staff.
Not at all. I mean, Mike Dunlap had a great successful run as a head coach at Metro State in the Denver area. He's been a head coach in Australia. He was an NBA assistant. But even in this role where he is the assistant coach being bumped up, or just sort of the X and O guy that's behind the scenes, he had this exact same role a few years ago when he was sharing the coaching duties with Russ Pinnell at Arizona when they were replacing the 2nd year of an interim status when Lute Olson was out before he officially retired. So Mike Dunlap told me before the game he loves all the video stuff, the X and O stuff, and loves being in this role and doing all the grind stuff in place of Steve Lavin. He's also got Gene Cady, by the way, sitting behind him on the bench, obviously one of the best coaches ever in college basketball.
Thanks, Andy. Boatwright misses the 3, and Mike Dunlap was also telling us that he's known Steve Lavin for 26 years, and he said the transition's been an easy one because there's such a level of mutual trust between those two.
Absolutely, and you have to have that on a staff. And you know, Steve Lavin trusts his staff with him being away. And Mike Dunlap also talked about how they put it on the whiteboard, and they talked about how they were going to present this to the players. And you know, Steve Lavin's very sensitive to the fact that he doesn't want to be too much of a distraction while he's gone.
Well, Roscoe Smith did not start because he hurt his hand the other night against USF. We were told he might get in today. Well, he's in the lineup, and he just was called for that foul, sending Harkless to the foul line. Number 1 on Smith and 4 on the Huskies.
Daniels for number 11, Ryan Boatwright.
Boatwright departs, replaced by Daniels. Mike Dunlap said of Harkless, he's diverse. He can play the point, he can play the post, and anywhere in between, and he can guard anyone on the other team.
He's just a well-rounded player and is one of the top freshmen, not just in the Big East Conference, but in the country. We've actually got a few of them in this game. You talk about the future of college basketball. Of course, a couple of them might be leaving for the pro level after this season. We'll have to see.
Andre Drummond, the Big East preseason Rookie of the Year selection. It's been an up and down first year for him so far. Shot clock inside 10. Oh. Speaking of Andre Drummond.
And as amazing as that play is, that has become typical. Whenever Andre Drummond is weak side opposite Shabazz Napier, Napier looks to throw that alley-oop pass.
They executed that one to perfection. Achua starts to go and then throws the bounce pass into the corner.
On the weak side, you've got a 6'11 freshman who's 270 pounds, but light on his feet and is just developing a great connection with Shabazz Napier, his point guard. And again, you see this time and time again, the Holy Cross game, the Fairfield game, the connection that these two have for those long alley-oops.
Lead back up to 10. Napier, 31 Malik Stiff in the lineup for St. John's. He's one of the few St. John's player with any game experience entering the year as Napier hits the jumper. This is the biggest lead of the afternoon at a dozen. Green right down the lane. Rebound Smith. Napier has Drummond ahead to the left. Instead finds Lamb for the three. Tipped up by Drummond. Rebound Harkless. Inside the 5-minute mark. Corner jumper Harrison. Rebound Lamb. Napier to Lamb. Lamb guarded by Green for the pull-up. Rebound Drummond. A 14-point lead, 7 points for Drummond. Stiff. Harrison defended by Lamb. Not a whole lot of movement on this possession for St. John's. And they just settled for a bad shot by Stiff.
If you're St. John's, you really have to maximize your offensive possessions and try and find a way to slow this momentum that the Huskies have found.
Lamb dribbles behind the back, penetrates. Napier. Pass deflected, back to Napier. That time Harkless got up and denied the alley-oop. Stiff the other way, denied by Daniels. And then Lamb's dribble is kicked out of bounds by Green. The 6th block shot by UConn. 3 of them by Lamb. And this one by DeAndre Daniels. He has some athletic ability.
Oh, they have so many players across their lineup that can impact you by blocking the shot. You see DeAndre Daniels, he's just the latest. UConn opening this one.
18-point UConn lead, and Kara, UConn is certainly a perimeter-oriented team. 3 leading scorers are perimeter players, but when they can get points in the paint like they've had so far in the first half today, they can be a very difficult team to defend.
Absolutely, and they've gotten points from a variety of areas in the front court. And Andre Drummond, who's really come on the last 5 games. Tyler Olander gave them some good early minutes with his consistency, and we see that alley-oop that Shabazz Napier always looks for with Andre Drummond. But their front court, they're not necessarily guys you throw it into the post and say, hey, go get me a bucket. So a lot of their stuff comes off of penetration from the guards. Andre
Drummond, without ever stepping for 1 second on the floor, was a preseason Naismith Award nominee. Very highly touted freshman out of Middletown, Connecticut. Oriaki in the low post had it knocked away and then knocked away from behind by UConn. It'll be St. John's ball baseline as Amir Garrett replaces Green.
See, St. John's has had a couple of those opportunities off their deflections where they've been able to get in the open court and run, but they have not been able to finish in transition. The ball has been poked away. Remember, Mo Harkless traveled. They've got to find a way to score on some of those runouts.
Pointer. Gives to Harrison. Achua set the screen, then gets the ball and will fire up the 3. Not sure that's the shot that St. John's wanted, but the offensive rebound by Pointer for 2. He's got 6. Daniels to Lamb. Boat right, Drummond sets a high screen, then rolled to the basket. Drummond to Oriaki. This is the jump hook with the left hand, and the rebound is pulled down by Harrison. Harrison directing traffic as we hit the 2-minute mark in the first half, with UConn by 12. Harrison drives. Last 2 St. John's shots didn't even hit the rim. Daniels penetrates. He'll be called for the charge. It's 1 on him and 5 on UConn. Olander and Napier back in for the Huskies.
Well, DeAndre Daniels trying to be aggressive and just a little out of control as he over-penetrated there. But for St. John's offensively, I mean, To me, D'Angelo Harrison has got to be smarter, but maintain his aggressiveness in the half court. He's one of their leading scorers. He's somebody that as a guard can draw a lot of attention to open up for some of his teammates.
So Boatwright and Napier back on the floor together for UConn. Garrett to Harrison. Garrett will fire up the three. St. John's just settling for jumper after jumper. Some of them have gone nowhere near the basket. Olander is blocked from behind, but a foul is called. This will be on Garrett.
St. John's foul, 22, Amir Garrett.
Shabazz Napier, again, just really looking to expose those gaps in that St. John's zone. But Bobby, you mentioned St. John's settling, and against Providence in their first Big East game, they hit shots in the first half. They hit shots, and when you hit shots, it's going to be easy. But in the front court of UConn, that deters you. That deters you from driving because of the size they have back there. We've seen the blocks already early in this game.
And a staple of Jim Calhoun coach teams has always been that field goal percentage defense stat, and the Huskies allowing opponents to make only 36% of their shots, and that's #1 in the Big East early in the conference season. It's a lot easier to hold your opponents to 36% when you take the last 3 shots that St. John's has taken, huh?
Absolutely.
Here's Harkless, guarded by Lamb in a great one-on-one matchup. Knocked over the end line by the Huskies. Oriaki will come back in for UConn. Coming up at halftime, we'll have Katz's Corner, a quick spin around the Big East, a dramatic and somewhat surprising announcement coming out of Louisville this week. We'll also check out the Big East impact on the top 25 and have first half highlights and stats. Final minute of the half, and Harkless explodes to the rim. UConn by 11. UConn now, St. John's rather, now has Garrett defending Lamb. Oriaki sets the screen. Napier goes around it and draws the foul from Green, his second and 6th on the Red Storm. Garrett, do you think this St. John's team is the sort of team that when we see them in late February will be much better because they're so young, and by then they will have had an opportunity to develop as a team and play together?
Absolutely. They are young, and they're going to grow. And the tough part is their growth might not always equal wins when you talk about the Big East Conference and how strong it is again this year. And that's what's so tough when you have a young team and you take them through the rigors of this schedule, the teams that you have to play on the road in order to get wins. This is going to be a huge growth year for this team.
Napier knocks down the free throw, so he's got 10 points. He's been in double figures 7 times this year. Every time he's been in double figures, he has scored 20 points, by the way. Smith with a silly hold on the perimeter. That's #2 on him, only 6 on the Huskies. So it will not result in free throws. Shot clock is off. Garrett to inbound directly in front of us. Pointer. What do you think St. John's looking for here?
I think they're going to try and allow D'Angelo Harrison or Mo Harkless to make a play here at the stretch. You're 2 better offensive players.
Harkless now with the ball in his hands. Pull up over Smith, no good. Rebound pulled down by Oriaki with 1 second left. That's the 6th rebound for Alex Oriaki in the first half. So a very solid defensive effort by UConn in the first half. Out shooting St. John's 52% to 26%. And the Huskies getting 10 points from Shabazz Napier to lead a balanced scoring attack. The Huskies are trying to extend their winning streak to 7 since their only loss of the year. It's UConn 38, St. John's 25. We're halfway home. Picosi along with Carol Lawson and Andy Katz. UConn by 13 at the half, and Andy Katz is standing by with St. John's coach Mike Dunlap.
All right, Mike, you guys are down 13. How do you claw back into this game?
Well, I think we got to be feistier with the ball, and also we can't give open threes. Offensively, we've had some good looks. We've only turned the ball over 3 times, so it's a matter of us on our runouts finishing, and in second getting more screens so we get better looks, or also some paint looks, and taking them to, we were 8 for 8 from the free throw line, for example. We like that.
Steve told me before the game by phone that you've got to get to the backboard to have a chance to win. What do you have to do in the second half in that department?
Well, up until the last 5 minutes, we're playing them even, and we're keeping count of that. Again, some of that's offensive rebounding, and I think we're giving them too much respect. I think we got to get in there, get our noses in there, and see if we can get a couple cheap ones.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Back to you, Bob.
All right, Ed. All right, Andy, thank you very much. A sellout crowd here at the XL Center on this New Year's Eve matinee. Fans very excited about their Huskies. Last year, St. John's in Steve Lavin's first year had great success when going up against the heavyweights.
Oh, really revitalized the program and brought excitement back to Madison Square Garden. Did Steve Lavin with last year's run, but you look at this year's team, and I agree with Mike Dunlap. They've got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. Their guards have to look to penetrate and get into the lane to create opportunities.
The St. John's team with only 8 scholarship players, 8 freshmen, the youngest team in the 104-year history of the program. 4 freshmen and 1 first-year junior college transfer comprise the starting 5. Napier for the Huskies had 10 first-half points. Guarded by Green. And there's the lob again. Now, what is St. John's doing wrong on that? Is it Chua not paying enough attention?
It's a weak side, and sometimes you steal a glance at the basketball, you steal a glance at a cutter, and you forget about your man, and you do that for 1 split second against Drummond. He's going to be dunking the basketball. St.
John's now 1 for 14 from three-point range. Held ball will keep it at this end. Another look at that alley-oop, which has become a staple for UConn.
Well, Phil Green has Shabazz Napier bottled up. He's doing a great job of getting the ball pressure. But look at Andre Drummond all by himself there on the weak side block. So anytime Napier can get that angle, he's going to have an eye towards the sky for number 12.
Harrison around the Harkless screen, then gives it back to Harkless. Good ball fake, gets him to the rim. Harkless, a very skilled offensive player who can score in many different ways. He's got 8. Oriaki, foul line extended. And boy, if he can knock down that jump shot with consistency, that's going to make this UConn team even more difficult to defend.
You talk about St. John's defensively and the different ways to beat them, and you remember in that Kentucky game, Kentucky went over the top a lot. They have that length in their front line with Anthony Davis, and so a similar matchup in terms of the front courts as St. John's struggling with that length again.
St. John's finally knocks down a 3, only the second 3 for the Red Storm in 15 attempts. For the season, they are shooting only 27% from behind the arc.
But where does that 3 come from? The generation of that shot was D'Angelo Harrison driving into the lane. That's what created those first side 3s, or those 3s in transition for St. John's. Unless it's Harrison, those are not good shots. They've got to get into the paint.
Lamb, they tried the alley-oop again, and it worked again. This time Achua was between Drummond and the basket, but it didn't matter. It was Lamb throwing it this time. 11 points for Drummond. Achua goes baseline, and he will draw the foul on Oriaki. Number 2 on him, and 1 on UConn here in the second half.
Sometimes, even if you have an eye on the player that you're guarding, it doesn't matter. Andre Drummond just has the athleticism to be able to overtake Achua there, but I like the offensive aggressiveness by Achua. Remember early in the game, one of St. John's first offensive possessions, he shot faked and he drove to the basket, and he does that there. These face-up players, Harkless, Achua, their advantage is on the perimeter with their foot speed, and so they need to take more advantage of that when they have the basketball in their hands.
God's gift Achua, the son of minister. His dad's name is Donatus. There are 5 siblings, and their names are God's Will, Grace, Peace, Promise, and Precious. 2 minutes into the second half. The lead is a dozen for the Huskies. Lamb. George Blaney was telling me the other day, Kara, that one of the big differences in Jeremy Lamb this year is he has improved his handle so much, and that's a direct byproduct of the extensive one-on-one work he's getting with Kevin Ollie.
He's getting a chance to work with Kevin Ollie, and not just Jeremy Lamb, DeAndre Daniels, Roscoe Smith. You'll see any number of the UConn perimeter players working with Kevin Ollie before the game, before practices, to try and make that handle tight. But it was necessary for Jeremy Lamb. He's a leading role now, so you have to be able to create your own shot and be tight with your handle.
Kevin Ollie with 13 years of NBA experience. That foul on Garrett was his second. And now we're going to get a foul on Green. There's Kevin Ollie, who was graduated in 1995, played on a team that lost to eventual national champion UCLA in a terrific Elite Eight game out in Oakland. Daniels will throw it into Ryan Boatwright, and for more on Kevin Ollie and his bright future in his coaching profession, let's swing it over to Andy Katz.
Well, I can tell you guys, I saw it firsthand when I went on the White House tour with this team in May and saw the way the new president, Susan Herbst, really was enamored by Kevin Ollie's presence. He did a little clinic for some local kids in the D.C. area. And what UConn's not going to do is do what Syracuse did, which is sort of announce a head coach designate as they did with Mike Hopkins. But it's clear this is who Jim Calhoun wants to succeed him. He is beloved in the community, does a lot of charity work, has moved his family to Glastonbury. That sort of became his home when he was in the NBA. And more than anything, he has really sort of bridged the gap with the NBA players and the new recruits, and really I think will do a nice job of having a smooth transition whenever Jim Calhoun decides to retire. And it does help that there is a new president and a new athletic director for a possible transition to Kevin Ollie.
The Daniels for the finish. UConn's patience is rewarded. Kara, I like the way Andy threw in the White House. Andy's been in the White House so often he has his own key. He and President Obama have that annual session which the president makes out his brackets. They called Andy to find out when are you available. That's when we'll schedule the tour.
Andre Drummond has improved in a lot of ways early in his freshman season, and one of those is passing. When you have a willing passer as a big man, it just makes things a lot easier. Finding that wing cutter and strong finish there by Daniels.
Off the inbound, a quick runner by Harrison is good. The lead is 12. 10 points for Harrison. Daniels guarded by the smaller Harrison. Drummond hits the baseline jumper. He looks like the kind of guy that can really develop a good post-up facing the basket offense.
In the last couple weeks, in UConn's games, the last couple of weeks, he has really shown an ability to turn around and hit that short corner jump shot. He's shown an ability with some back to the basket moves. So it's just a matter of him getting confidence in the things that he does in practice for that to roll over into gameplay.
Foul on Boatwright, his first 2 on UConn. And to the line will go Harrison.
Harrison, 2 free throws.
Harrison, born in Anchorage, Alaska, now makes his home in Missouri City, Texas. Mike Dunlap says Harrison's willing to modify his game, and he has a fundamentally sound shot. And he says he loves Harrison's ability to get to the foul line.
He's got a quick trigger, and I think the most important trait that Harrison has for this group is that he's unafraid. He has tremendous confidence in his abilities, and so you need that on the Big East. When you're playing in the Big East, when you're on the road, you need a guy that has just an attitude about him.
Yeah, George Blaney emphasizing that point. To Lamb, boy, UConn is they're going to take it away and call the charge on Lamb. Second foul on Lamb and 3 on the team, and George Blaney doesn't like it at all.
Andre Drummond, you see the nice pass, and DeAndre Daniels. He's another one of UConn's freshmen that just keeps getting better and better.
He was ranked the #2 high school player in the country last year in ESPNU's Top 100. Kara, the sky is the limit when you're talking about Andre Drummond's upside.
Well, Jim Calhoun has called him the best walk-on in the history of college basketball. The freshman from Middletown, Connecticut, just brings an electric athleticism to this team, and we see the alley-oop dunks. His teammates know that if they just get it in the vicinity, he's got the ability and the vertical leap to get up there and bring it home, and just his improvement offensively, not just the dunks. He's really contributing in a lot of ways for this team.
And Andy Katz, how in the world did UConn get a player of Drummond's talents so late in the recruiting process?
Well, that's because originally he was going to have a post-grad year at one of the prep schools, wasn't definitive in the New England area, yet he decided that he was ready to come back, start his college career a year ahead of the time. And there was a chance, had the new collective bargaining agreement been a little bit different, that he might have been here for 2 years. Now we'll have to wait and see what he decides, because certainly if he decides to go in the NBA draft, he would be one of the top 5 NBA draft picks. We'll have to wait and see what he decides come June.
And
actually, earlier than that, in April, excuse me.
And while you're explaining that, Andy, Drummond blocked a shot. It triggered a fast break. And all Jeremy Lamb did is hit the shot carrier and go to the line for maybe a 4-point play.
So smooth. And here's another young man that's growing into his role as a primary scorer for this team. And we saw Jeremy Lamb last season really ratchet up his level in the NCAA tournament, went up to 16 points a game. That gave us a glimpse of what he could be in his sophomore year.
So the 4-point play gives him 10. The foul was on Harrison, his first and 4 on the team. Now there's a foul on UConn on Daniels, his second and 4 on the Huskies.
First personal, 4th team foul.
If Drummond can continue to develop his offensive game, Kara, it really is going to make UConn a terribly difficult team to defend with the firepower they have on the perimeter.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they're one of the teams in the country with the highest ceiling, because they still have young players. I mean, it's not very often you have a team that has experienced youth. They have so many players back from last year's national championship run. And yes, they're without Kemba Walker, who was a huge part of that. But so many of these guys improved in the offseason. They have so many weapons. It's just hard to find a way to stop all of them.
Basket by Ochoa gives him 10. Huskies lead is 15. Napier to Lamb. Daniels puts it on the deck, then finds the cutter Olander. Rebound Ochoa. St. John's has won 3 in a row, including the conference opener. They scored 91 points over Providence the other night. From the corner, Harrison. Rebound, Andre Drummond. His 6th. To Daniels. Went up and under. The whistle is because Pointer knocked the ball back through the rim, through the net.
Great pass there by Shabazz Napier, and just doing a great job of feeding his teammates on the break.
The hand is for DeAndre Daniels as he gets a rest.
Just head up, always head up and looking to find it. You know, we talked about UConn and their upside. I mean, look on the basketball court. They've got 4 sophomores and 1 freshman on the court right now, yet they're dominating this matchup. So a tremendous amount of talent and youth that got experience last season.
Don't have a single senior player on scholarship. Count it, and a chance for a 3-point play.
Number 10, Tyler Olander.
Foul will be on Olander. Now let's take a look at our Big East leaders, brought to you by PNC. For the achiever in you, Shabazz Napier 3rd in the conference in assists. He's also 3rd in steals and 3rd in 3-point shooting percentage. Do you think UConn has the best backcourt in the Big East, Kara?
I'd probably lean towards Syracuse. I'd probably lean towards Syracuse because of the depth of that backcourt too. But certainly it's right up there when you talk about Shabazz Napier and Jeremy Lamb and what those 2 young men are able to do in their sophomore seasons. But I love what Scoop Jardine could do, and Brandon Trish. Of course, you got Dion Waiters. You just have so many players on Syracuse's team. It's the deepest team in the country.
Mark it down. February 11th, UConn at Syracuse. February 25th, Syracuse at UConn at Gamble Pavilion. They ought to be classics. 2 teams that shared the #1 spot in the preseason Big East coaches poll. Lamb on the curl, the penetration, the dish, but Drummond couldn't handle it. Pointer. Boy, nobody stopped the ball on that play. Defensive breakdown for the Huskies. Rule number 1, right? Stop the ball.
Wow. Sir Dominic Pointer, and this is what Mike Dunlap was talking about. He told his guys, we got to take it strong to the rim, and if we need to get any cheap fouls, then we need to get them. Well, that's not a cheap foul. That's their dominant pointer, just taking it strong, and we'll see if that play can kind of give some life to St. John's on the offensive end.
UConn with a 13-point lead over St. John's. Carol, let's go inside the play, and we're going to call it not stopping the ball.
Well, so often it occurs after a turnover that it's a scramble for transition defense. And then when someone other than the point guard brings it up, you can see UConn confused who's going to stop the basketball. No one does, and Niels Giffey pays a heavy price there with a dunk right in his face.
The guy on the left was not guilty of that defensive breakdown too often. An outstanding defensive player during his playing days at UConn, Kevin Ollie. Kevin Ollie's a young man, Kara, who grew up in South Central LA, where it can be very challenging for young men to grow up. And he came out of it and emerged unscathed, and is probably as good an advertisement for what a UConn education can do for someone as anyone who's ever played here.
Absolutely, a model student athlete and really a model professional for the time that he was in the NBA, and had the opportunity to play with a lot of players, and that credibility that an ex-NBA player brings to a staff, because a lot of these players aspire to be pro basketball players, so the credibility that Kevin Ollie brings certainly helps upgrade UConn.
Oriaki to Lamb. St. John's extending the man-to-man on this Huskies possession. Shot clock down to 10. Here's the high screen by Oriaki. And Napier just beats him off the bounce. Oh, how do you stop that? Here's the steal. Giffey to Napier. See if they can find Drummond on that alley-oop again. Instead, kick out Lamb for three. That'll work.
Shabazz Napier really putting on a dribbling, a ball handling clinic the last two possessions down the court, and that's a player that's really tight with his ball handling skills and can get into a lot of crevices on the offensive end.
13 points now for Lamb. Pointer drives to the rim. St. John's has some players, Kara, with outstanding individual skills.
It's a young team, and they're going to have to learn how to mesh those individual skills, and that's the process that this group is going to take. And certainly coming on the road, playing one of the 10 best teams in the country in UConn, it's been a tough task for them so far.
Well, they have an easy one next time out. All they're doing is playing 4th-ranked Louisville on Tuesday night at the Garden. Napier with the shot clock inside 10 again. There's the high screen. Napier drives, kick out Giffey. How about those last two possessions? It's a simple game when you can penetrate, isn't it?
Niels Giffey has done a tremendous job of just knocking down shots, and he's getting a chance to play a little bit more minutes than we're used to him seeing play because of Roscoe Smith and the injury.
Rebound Napier ahead to Drummond. What's the big guy going to do on the open floor? Well, at least he got his own rebound. Lamb to Giffey, and they'll reset the offense. There we go. For once it wasn't executed properly. Then Giffey gets hammered on the rebound. Napier, when you can drive the basketball, it can set up so many opportunities.
Shabazz Napier, really his growth and maturation as a point guard, getting into the lane. And what you want to do is make things easier for others, but sometimes you make it easier for yourself.
Here at UConn and Kara, when Shabazz Napier has the ball in his hands, he can create so many opportunities. If it's not the alley-oop, it's a wide-open three for his teammates.
Oh, it's his skill and his toughness that helps separate him. And as a freshman, he surprised a lot of people with his contributions. And now as a sophomore, he's the leading guy in the front court, being the point guard and looking to create opportunities. And we saw really those last two possessions. I mean, he put on a dribbling display, finding a score. I mean, how many times do we see Jeremy Lamb with that clean a look? Well, it's because of what Shabazz Napier can do. And then Niels Giffey knocking down the three-point shot as well. So you see that 8 assists. You love the points to field goal attempts ratio for Shabazz Napier. He can just give them so much on the offensive end.
Giffey misses the first shot. I'm not sure what's a higher percentage shot, the Drummond dunk off the alley-oop or the wide-open three by Lamb. Lamb for the season entering the day shooting 40% from three-point range. He has about as pure a shot as you could ever find.
He does, and he's got range. He's got range all the way back to the NBA three-point line. So just a difficult check one-on-one because he can beat you in all three phases on the offensive end.
Pointer gives to Green for three. And Drummond goes to the rebound. Ball hit the top of the backboard, so it will go over the Huskies. This is the second game of Jim Calhoun's three-game suspension. So Andy Katz, just how much contact has there been between Jim Calhoun and George Blaney during the suspension?
Oh, plenty. I mean, certainly on the phone. The one thing that George Blaney did tell me earlier today is that unlike Steve Lavin, who's been at practices on and off as much as he can physically handle that, Jim Calhoun during the suspension is not allowed to be at practice, not allowed to obviously be at the games or travel, as they had a road game at South Florida. They got this other one coming up at Seton Hall. But they've done this before. I mean, he's had some stomach bouts. He certainly had his bout with prostate cancer. So they've had replacement situations where Jim Calhoun has not been a part of the team and they still had great communication. And so this is just yet another example. And one thing that George Blaney did say that's different than one of the things that's different than him and Jim Calhoun, doesn't obviously scream as much, not as intense, but he wants more contributions from the assistants during the course of the game. He told me he wants to hear 3, 4, 5 different things from Kevin Ollie. You see Carl Hobbs, a former head coach on the bench of George Washington, Glenn Miller, former head coach of Penn and Brown, and Kevin Freeman, former member of that '99 national championship team, on the bench. He wants to hear from those guys during the course of the game.
Thank you, Nandy. The charge on Boatwright, his second foul and 6 on the team. Giffey with the steal ahead to Drummond. Look out. Good body control. Kind of hold your breath when you see a big guy dribbling in the open court, don't you?
6'11" floater. How about that? That's a first.
How would you like to be at the other end to try to take the charge on that guy? Might be the last one you take. From the corner, Harkless. He has such a smooth shot also. 13 points for Harkless. Andy mentioned that George Blaney has done this before, filling in for Jim Calhoun. Jim Calhoun, since he's been at UConn, this is the 31st game that he has missed all or part of, and the Huskies are 21-9 in the first 30 games. Daniels to Boatwright. And it goes without saying, Kara, that you're not exactly dealing with a novice when it comes to the head coaching profession when you're talking about George Blaney.
Absolutely
he has
not.
a great deal of experience. Drummond missed his own putback. Ball knocked out of bounds by UConn.
I mean, when you talk about both of these respective teams missing their head coaches, there's no question the presence of Jim Calhoun and the presence of Steve Lavin on the sidelines and what they bring to their teams in terms of energy and expectation and emotion. But they have two able men that are leading their teams now, and George Blaney and Mike Dunlap, that have both been very good in their own respective head coaching careers.
Here's Daniels on the break. He's tripped up. Blocking foul on Malik Stiff. That's number 1 on him. And number 6 on St. John's here in the second half. George Blaney spent 2 years as a head coach at Stonehill, 3 years at Dartmouth, 22 years and 357 wins at Holy Cross, and 3 years at Seton Hall before he came to UConn as an associate head coach. And he is now in his 11th season in that capacity. So you're talking about a guy, Kara, who has 459 career wins of his own as a Division I head coach.
Remarkable. Remarkable to have that type of coach on your staff. And you mentioned 11 years at Connecticut. So this isn't a new voice for these players. George Blaney has been very active in their development and in game plans.
I think in those 11 years, the two of them have discussed the pros and cons of probably about 85% of the golf courses in the United States also. Both love the game of golf. Harrison shoots over Boatwright. Boy, he forced that shot. Drummond with his 11th rebound. And we'll get a reach-in foul on Harrison. That'll be number 2 on him, and number 7 on St. John's. UConn up 20, looking for win number 7 in a row. This is the Huskies home opener in Andy Katz, the Big East. Each school at its home opener has had a special pregame ceremony.
Yeah, a moment of silence for the late Dave Gavitt. The 3 officials here are also wearing basketball patches that have Dave Gavitt's initials, DRG. And there's no question that you can make an argument that Dave Gavitt may be one of the most important people in the last 30 years in college basketball. Certainly, he created the Big East, changed Northeast basketball. I was at his funeral earlier this fall, and it really was a who's who in the game of basketball. From the Olympic level to the NBA to the college, his hands were in all sorts of aspects of the game of basketball, all levels, and really was, you could argue, the godfather of the sport in the Northeast to sort of create the college basketball atmosphere that we have today in this Big East Conference. And what's such a shame is that his passing occurred around the same time that you had Pitt and Syracuse leaving for the ACC, West Virginia ultimately for the Big 12, and now the Big East is trying to much go in their football direction rather than its core in its basketball direction. And it's something obviously that Dave Gavitt created, and his legacy will forever be attached to what he did in terms of creating the Big East.
And we caught a glimpse during Andy's comments of Dave's son Dan, who's the Associate Commissioner for Men's Basketball at the Big East Conference, and who is here today and was last night at the West Virginia Seton Hall game in Newark. Kara, there would be no Big East. There would be no 6 Big East teams in the top 25 were it not for Dave Gavitt and his incredible vision back in the early and mid-70s when he envisioned taking all the great basketball schools in the Big East and partnering them together.
Well, it's evolved into what you would amount to a perfect basketball conference, not just 6 in the top 25. How about 11 teams in the NCAA tournament last season? I mean, it has been, for the last few years, the dominant conference in college basketball.
Oriaki with the basket for the Huskies, and at the other end, Harrison will draw the foul on Giffey. Number 2 on Giffey. And number 7 on the team. Attention golfers and club pros. Online registration is now open for the 2012 ESPN National Golf Challenge. Log on to ESPNGolf.com to sign up and find a participating course near you. Substitution UConn Napier replacing DeAndre Daniels. So Kara, that sets up for UConn a very interesting visit to Newark on Tuesday night to take on a Seton Hall team that got off to an 11-1 start, and then their first big test of the year got destroyed at Syracuse by 26, then bounced back with a very impressive effort last night in beating a West Virginia team that they had lost to 7 times in a row.
You know, when the Big East schedule came out, that third game at Seton Hall, and you look at the job they've done early in the season, I think that was the scariest game for Connecticut in terms of, without Jim Calhoun, what game would kind of be their toughest matchup, and I think it is against Seton Hall.
Achua rejects the Boatwright drive. At the other end, Harrison knocks down the 3. There's an example of what a block shot can do, create a transition opportunity at the other end of the floor. St. John's needs more of that.
It's just getting out and running. I mean, they have not been able to score against UConn's half-court defense, so when they can manufacture turnovers against Connecticut, that gives them better quality looks at the basket.
UConn's first game with Jim Calhoun back on the bench will be a week from tonight at Rutgers. And of course, the Scarlet Knights coming off one of the great wins in their history, beating 10th ranked Florida the other night at home. A backcourt violation called on UConn. Turnover number 10 on the Huskies. Defense turning into offense for the Red Storm.
Well, St. John's, they just haven't had enough plays like these. Not just the block, but run-outs, getting out in transition, finding D'Angelo Harrison. He's got such a quick trigger. You know, when you talk about UConn defensively, you know they have a negative turnover margin. And you know, a big part of that is the fact that they get a lot of blocks more than they do steals. And so blocks don't necessarily count on the ledger in terms of turnovers, but their defense is a full 10% better in terms of field goal percentage defense than anyone else in the conference. So they rely on their bigs and they rely on their length. They're not going to steal the basketball from you up top, but they're going to force you into bad shots.
My guess is if you revisit that stat in another month, it'll be a little different, that turnover margin for UConn.
It could be. It could be. But the whole point is they're not a team that's going to press you and that's going to turn you over a bunch of times. They're going to force you into low percentage shots, and they're going to limit you to one shot and then get out and run.
Achua. Nice use with the left hand.
I mean, remember at halftime, Bob, St. John's only had 3 turnovers.
Right.
They only had 3 turnovers at the half, but they had 25 points, and they were shooting 25% from the field.
And 1 for 13 from three-point range. Boat right to Napier. Boat right on the penetration, lost the handle. And the ball, what do we have? We're going to get a foul call on. Is it Oriaki? Yep. His third. 8 on the team. Plenty of great matchups coming up on the Big East. We mentioned the UConn Seton Hall game. That'll be on the Big East Network. Check your local stations on Tuesday. Jim Calhoun's return next Saturday at Rutgers. Then on ESPN2, a date with West Virginia. And Kevin Jones, all he does is lead the Big East in scoring and rebounding. Then a visit to Notre Dame and a home date with Cincinnati. Those two on ESPN2. That lies ahead for UConn fans. Chua knocks down the first free throw.
If you talk about teams around the country that really need to get well in their conference schedule, Cincinnati's got to be near the top of the list. And we know with the suspensions, I know Andy talked about that at halftime, but you know, they're a team that was preseason fifth in the Big East. So their opportunity to get themselves back in that NCAA tournament picture, they're going to have to win some big games in their Big East conference schedule.
And Cincinnati visits Pitt tomorrow, and Pitt in the midst of a very, very rare 2-game losing streak. Panthers losing at Notre Dame the other night, their conference opener. Napier knocked to the floor. Last touch by the Red Storm. 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Last year, St. John's beat UConn by 17 points at Madison Square Garden. And before the ball is inbounded, Harkless is called for the foul, and that will be number 3 on Harkless. And 8 on the team. And to the line will go Drummond.
You can't say I blame Mo Harkless there. I'd be in a dead ball situation trying to put whatever I could, a forearm, an elbow, a knee into Andre Drummond to not let him slam one of those alley-oop passes home.
Oof. Drummond showing very nice soft touch on the first free throw, and then an air ball in the second one.
Well, you've got a double-double, you can laugh like that. But moving forward, you wonder if he's going to be able to be on the floor at the end of games. Yeah. I mean, is he going to be exactly? Is he going to be able to be on the floor, because he just shoots a terrible percentage.
He also just gave a little forearm to Harrison, knocking him to the floor, and picks up a silly foul. That's a first foul on Drummond. He's only a 33% free throw shooter for the season. So to the free throw line will go D'Angelo Harrison. A year ago, in Steve Lavin's first year at the helm, St. John's won 21 games. And maybe even more impressively, they won 12-6 in the Big East, tied for 3rd in the conference. Lost to Syracuse in the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament. Lost to Gonzaga in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. Kara, I think the Big East is a more exciting league when St. John's is good, when you have a good team playing in New York City.
Absolutely. Just like the NBA is a more exciting league when the Knicks are good. Just that basketball city and what New York turns into, and how the atmosphere in the Garden changes when St. John's is relevant.
Lamb with the miss. St. John's with a rare transition opportunity, and Green converts. That 20-point lead is down to 12. George Blaney getting a timeout with 4:10 remaining. How has St. John's been able to chip away?
Running out and being aggressive for St. John's. And you see Phil Green here, and he's in attack mode, and that's what Mike Dunlap coerced his team. He said, you guys, we got to do this at halftime. We've got to take it strong. And we've seen St. John's on the offensive end with more urgency in transition.
Plenty of great matchups coming your way on the Big East Network in the days ahead. Rutgers tomorrow will visit USF. As we mentioned, the Scarlet Knights coming off their huge win over 10th-ranked Florida. Number 1 Syracuse will visit DePaul. Then on Tuesday night, UConn at Seton Hall. West Virginia just played in New Jersey last night. They'll be back in New Jersey for a date at Rutgers Wednesday. And then Syracuse at Providence. Check the local listings for the games in your area. All coming up on the Big East Network. As we approach the 4-minute mark, St. John's forced to exert some pressure. Napier finds Drummond. And back to Boatwright. Now, if you're UConn, do you use some clock or do you just run your offense and attack?
If you have a good early shot, you take it. But at this point, when St. John's is pressing, you use clock. The clock is a big friend. You still got a double-digit lead.
Shot clock down to 5. Napier went behind the back and then threw a picture-perfect pass to one of his teammates on the bench. 13th turnover. A little grumbling in the building. Is there cause for concern with the lead down to 12? It's home opener for UConn. Huskies up 12. And Andy Katz, you mentioned before about the imminent departures of Pittsburgh and Syracuse and West Virginia. A lot of controversy about just when West Virginia will begin play in the Big 12.
No question. According to West Virginia in the Big 12, they're going to be playing in the Big 12, but according to the Big East, West Virginia will be in the Big East next season. Both West Virginia and the Big East have filed lawsuits against each other. One's in the state of Rhode Island, one's in the state of West Virginia. So this thing's obviously going to get a little bit messy. The bottom line is we'll have to wait and see whether or not West Virginia could maybe pony up a little bit more money to get out earlier. Obviously, at this juncture, they think they have the right to get out when they see fit. Missouri was allowed to get out to go from the Big 12 to the SEC. Texas A&M was not an issue. They got out in plenty of time. Missouri came after that. So this thing is still far from over for next season. Obviously, John Marinaro, the Big East commissioner, has made it clear that he does not want to release any of the 3 schools before the 27-month exit timeline that they all agreed to. And he actually said on their conference call when they announced the 5 new members, 3 in basketball, Houston, Central Florida, and SMU, and 2 in just football, Boise State and San Diego State, that he could see in 2013 where there could be 19 Big East schools and as many as 11 in football, that they'd have this hodgepodge. We'll have to wait and see if that actually does occur when the new ones come in, if those old ones are still there. Napier
1 for 2 from the line following Green's 4th foul. And one of the big problems is the case is not scheduled to be heard until next July. And that's at a point where a lot of the team's schedules are already put to bed. And so if you're the Big East, just how do you schedule? You come up with a plan A with West Virginia and a plan B without them. So to say the least, it is a mess. Green, deep 3. Back rims it. And the rebound on a hop came to Achua. And then Harrison throws up the 3 and the putback by Pointer. Oh, was he up above the rim?
That is the second spectacular play by Sir Dominic Pointer. And, you know, St. John's knocking on the door.
Boatwright lobs it down low to Drummond. Knocked out of bounds by St. John's. The lead down to 11. The athleticism of Sir Dominic Pointer.
Well, D'Angelo Harrison takes a quick trigger 3, and everybody tries to out-jump one another. And Sir Dominic Pointer, he out-jumps everybody on that one. Wow, what a terrific young player that Pointer is for Mike Dunlap.
14-2 run for the Red Storm has trimmed the lead to 11. Lamb out to Boatwright. And Boatwright gets bailed out with the foul on Harrison. That will be number 3 on him and 10 on the team.
10th on the team. Number 11, Ryan
Boatwright, a prolific high school career at East Aurora. He was the co-winner of the Illinois Mr. Basketball Award. He had a 63-point game, he had a 55-point game, and he had 7 40-point games. He averaged 31 points per game his senior year in high school.
10, Tyler Olander.
So, Kara, UConn has not one but two scoring point guards on their roster.
And it gives them great versatility when they play those two together. And we talked about Boatwright and how he does a tremendous job on the ball defensively. He's still learning pace and flow, what Napier had to learn a year ago. And so he's very often not out there alone, but he's an exciting talent.
Achua, and the foul will be called on Giffey from behind. 3 on him.
Number 12,
and 10 on the team.
second personal foul.
So Achua will try to complete the 3-point play. First team
His second.
junior college All-American a year ago from River States, Nigeria.
Both teams, St. John's and UConn, both struggle from the free throw line and as a team. And so you wonder in close games or in a situation like St. John's is in right now where they're trying to come back. They're trying to cut into the deficit. You're doing good things on the offensive end in terms of getting to the free throw line. You've got to get the payoff and knock down those shots.
St. John's only 12th in the Big East in free throw shooting, and UConn is 13. 2 minutes left. Lead is 12. Nearly stolen by Pointer. Boatwright for 3. That's a dagger there. 10 points for Boatwright. Four UConn players now in double figures. The kick. Shot clock will stay at 25 as Olander replaces Drummond. Drummond with his 3rd career double-double today with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Harkless to Pointer. On the drive, got his own rebound. St. John's hanging around, but the clock is not its ally at this point. 14 points for Pointer.
Well, the other advantage of having this lineup on the floor if you're Connecticut is the fact that you can have any number of guys handle the basketball and create a play.
Napier looked like he wanted to dish it off, but no one stopped the ball. He makes the shot, and Amir Garrett is on the floor and injured. 15 points for Boatwright. Now let's take a look at our Papa John's player of the game, and he is freshman Andre Drummond.
Another double-double for Andre Drummond, and just made his presence felt early in the game. He's such an imposing figure on front line for the Huskies, and we know the dunks, but I think it's all that he's added to his game in his short time here, in his short UConn career. The fact that we're seeing post moves now, the passes, the assists, and of course the block shots. He's really coming into his own, even though he's just in the middle of his freshman season.
Well, that's the last thing a St. John's team with very little depth needs, is to see one of the really 7 players in the rotation limp off the floor. Amir Garrett with 1:04 remaining. You surprised, Kara, that we're not seeing St. John's foul and just try to force UConn to make free throws?
You know, I can't say I'm surprised they're not fouling. I'd say I'm more surprised they haven't extended the pressure and kind of gone more all out to try and create a turnover here, to try and speed up UConn and create a mistake.
And with a minute to go, foul will be called on Napier. That's the last thing you want to do if you're UConn, is stop the clock and give St. John's a chance to make 2 freebies, because the Huskies have put St. John's in the double bonus.
George Blaney has put his better free throw shooters into the game in case St. John's goes that route.
Drummond is on the bench.
Yes.
33%.
He would be on the bench.
You picked the nice way of saying that. Bringing a young man out of Chicago, but he comes to St. John's out of IMG Academy in Florida, where he averaged 24 points a game last year. Here's Lamb. Now here's St. John's trying to trap. They'll give it to Lamb. Well, there's your exclamation point. 15 points for Lamb. Harkless the pointer for 3. Rebound pulled down by Olander. A couple of seconds difference between the shot clock and the game clock. So, Carol, what's your early read the first time you've had a chance to see this very young St. John's team?
I think this is a team that's going to get better and better, but they have to be a team that's more efficient on the offensive end. I mean, the number of missed shots for them, and you know, the fact that they went away from penetrating was so good for them early on. And you take a look at Jeremy Lamb here, and we talked about the multiple weapons that UConn has on the offensive end. So when you switch to UConn, and they have to feel really good about where they are, only 1 loss on the season, and they're starting to improve, and their group is starting to mesh together. And like I said before, I think this is one of the teams in the country that has one of the highest ceilings. By the end of the season, they're going to be right there contending for a Final Four berth.
Boatwright departs, so does Lamb. And checking in for the Huskies will be number 40, Ethan Waite, one of the walk-ons. And this will be his first career appearance. 5'10" senior out of East Hartford High School, just across the Connecticut River from where we sit. And the hand for Shabazz Napier, who leads with 17 points.
You know, when you talk about St. John's and what they need to get better, you go through the Big East, and it's a gauntlet of teams that really take pride in the defensive end. So you have to be able to get good shots, manufacture good shots night in and night out.
Sure, with the miss, the foul will be on number 1, Enish Wolf, a sophomore from Germany, also on the floor. Walk-ons Benjamin Stewart, number 23, and number 14, P.J. Cochran. Believe it or not, Kara, despite UConn's tremendous resume and the great success of this program, this will be the Huskies' first 2-0 start in the Big East in 8 years. Guess that says something about the conference. This is what lies ahead for St. John's. Louisville at Madison Square Garden on ESPNU on Tuesday night. Then a visit to Cincinnati, an ESPN3 game next Saturday. With a rebound pulled down by Wolf. He gives to Waite. He has it taken away. Harkless. Count it. And a foul on Stewart.
And foul at 23, Benjamin Stewart is first.
Harkless coming off a 32-point effort the other night against Providence.
Harkless, 1 free throw.
George Blaney said of Harkless, he can shoot it, he can drive. There's nothing he can't do. Completes the 3-point play, and that'll do it. No, it won't. This is not the way St. John's wanted to finish. UConn wanted to finish, rather. The walk-ons not exactly distinguishing themselves in the final 30 seconds of this game. So Pointer will go to the line again. This is the first. Oh for 2. Another offensive rebound, and finally it ends. So UConn wins it by a score of 83-69, and the Huskies head for an interesting date at Seton Hall on Tuesday.
Yeah, it should be a tough place for UConn to play. Of course, Herb Pope doing a great job in leading that Seton Hall team, and the last game of the Jim Calhoun suspension. But this group is playing well after that big road win against South Florida. They get a chance to get their second Big East win.
Once again, our final score, UConn 83, St. John's 69. For Carol Lawson and Andy Katz, I'm Bob Picozzi. Tune into the Big East Network Tuesday at 7 as UConn visits Seton Hall. Check your local listings. For more information on the Big East Network, log on to ESPNplus.com. The preceding and exclusive presentation of ESPN Regional Television, the worldwide leader in college sports.